Most men spend their lives trying to make women happy. They chase, they give, they sacrifice, believing that loyalty and effort will create love. But Machiavelli, the man who studied power like a surgeon studies anatomy, knew a far more ruthless truth. Control doesn't come from love freely given. It comes from psychology deliberately applied. In this series, you will uncover Machiavelli's hidden hacks for controlling any woman. Dark principles forged in the fire of power struggles, sharpened to cut through illusions, and perfected to make a man unforgettable. These aren't tricks for boys who beg for attention. These are strategies for men who demand respect, who shape desire rather than follow it, and who understand that obsession always begins where weakness ends. Today I'll reveal the first layer of these strategies, and if you grasp them, you'll see why most men fail. They focus on giving her everything she wants, while Machiavelli teaches you to become the man she cannot control, cannot predict, and cannot escape. Machiavelli believed that abundance breeds contempt, and scarcity breeds value. He observed that people grow careless with what they possess in excess. Women are no different. Give her endless affection, constant attention, unlimited validation, and soon she feels nothing. What was once rare becomes background noise. The hack: control her perception of access to you. Never make yourself an open book. Do not let her assume she owns your time, your energy, or your emotions. Instead, create a rhythm of closeness and distance. Appear, then disappear. Speak, then remain silent. Allow her to feel your presence, but also the chill of your absence. This is not manipulation in the childish sense of playing games. This is discipline. Because scarcity plants the seed of obsession. The human brain values unpredictability. When rewards are inconsistent, the desire grows stronger. She thinks about you when you're gone, wonders about you when you're silent, and slowly becomes addicted to the tension. Scarcity forces her to value every moment you give. Every text, every glance, every conversation becomes precious because she knows it can vanish. Control is born not in what you provide, but in what you withhold. Machiavelli understood that people fear what they cannot fully read. Women crave certainty, but their desire ignites in uncertainty. Mystery is oxygen to attraction. When she thinks she knows you, she stops imagining you. And when imagination dies, so does obsession. So what is the hack? Reveal less than you conceal. Allow her to know your outline but not your depth. Speak in half-truths. Answer questions with stories that suggest but never fully explain. When she asks about your past, give her fragments. When she asks what you want, give her principles but not details. Let her imagination do the work. Because here's the brutal fact. The image she creates in her mind will always be more powerful than the reality you could hand her. When you leave gaps, her mind races to fill them with fantasies. She wonders if you are dangerous or saintly, ruthless or noble. She keeps thinking about you long after the conversation ends, because her mind has been forced into overdrive. Machiavelli's wisdom was clear: control perception, and you control reality. Never reveal your full hand. A man with no mystery is a man with no gravity. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Most men recoil at this idea, but that is because they do not understand what fear means in this context. Fear is not about violence or cruelty. Fear is about consequence. Women respect men whose words mean something, whose boundaries are not negotiable. A man who bends, who excuses, who forgives endlessly, kills his own authority. She may love him for his kindness, but she will not obey the pull of his presence. The hack: build an aura of consequence. Make it clear through action, not words, that disrespect closes doors, and betrayal brings silence. Never argue, never beg, never chase. Simply withdraw, and let her feel the cold void of your absence. That pain teaches more than words ever could. When she knows that losing you is a real possibility, her behavior changes. She chooses her words more carefully. She pays attention to your standards, and she invests more deeply in keeping you close. Fear of loss sharpens love into obsession. Machiavelli understood that men who control emotion control power. Most men try to control women through reason, explaining, debating, persuading, but attraction and control are never born from logic. They are born from emotional triggers. Here is the hack: learn to manage her emotional states, not her opinions. Make her laugh, then go silent. Give her warmth, then create distance. Pull her close, then step away. When you are the source of her highest peaks and deepest valleys, she bonds to you with invisible chains. This is not cruelty, it is psychological mastery, because women do not crave stability in their emotions, they crave intensity. They remember the man who made them feel fire, not the man who kept them safe but bored. Be the storm she cannot predict, and she will cling to you through chaos. These are the opening hacks of Machiavellian psychology: scarcity, mystery, respect, and emotional control. Each one shifts the dynamic from you chasing her to her chasing you. Each one flips the script from you giving to her fighting to keep what you offer. Machiavelli's wisdom is not about cruelty, but about clarity. He strips away illusions and shows you the raw mechanics of human desire. And if you apply even these first principles, you will stop being another man in the crowd, and instead become the man who commands attention without asking for it. Because control is not given. Control is created. And Machiavelli gave us the blueprint. Control is not a single act, it is a structure. In the first segment, you learned the foundation: scarcity, mystery, respect, and emotional control. These principles open the door. But now, we step deeper into the labyrinth where desire becomes obsession and power becomes permanence. Machiavelli did not study morality, he studied human nature, and his lessons teach us how to bend it. Machiavelli wrote that rulers hold power when subjects fear uncertainty. The same principle applies to relationships. A woman who knows your every move grows bored, and boredom kills attraction faster than betrayal. Predictability makes you replaceable. The hack: inject unpredictability into your interactions. Change patterns. If you usually text at night, text in the morning or vanish for a day. If you always compliment her, withhold praise. If you always lead with affection, sometimes lead with silence. Why does this work? Because unpredictability creates emotional spikes. She doesn't know what to expect, and that keeps her mind hooked on you. Every encounter becomes a gamble. Every conversation becomes a test. She invests more energy trying to figure you out, and that energy cements her attachment. A predictable man is safe. An unpredictable man is unforgettable. Machiavelli taught that power often comes from playing rivals against one another. He understood that competition sharpens desire. In relationships, jealousy is that weapon. The hack: subtly remind her that you hold value beyond her. Speak of your busy schedule, your network, your constant motion. Let her see that other women admire you without you openly flaunting it. A glance from another woman, a compliment you brush off, a story that reveals female attention. Each one sends a signal: you are in demand, but control it. Too much jealousy creates chaos, but the right dose creates fire. It reminds her that she does not own you, and that she must fight to keep her place. Machiavelli knew rivalry binds loyalty tighter than comfort ever could. Few men understand the weight of silence. Machiavelli did. He knew that words, once spent carelessly, lose their force. Silence, however, terrifies because it forces the other person to fill the void. The hack: use silence deliberately. When she seeks answers, do not always provide them. When she expects comfort, give her the stillness of your absence. When she provokes you, resist the urge to argue. Nothing unsettles a woman more than a man who refuses to react on command. Silence is not weakness, it is dominance. It turns the tables, forcing her to chase your words, your attention, your approval. Each pause becomes a psychological trap. She wonders what you are thinking, what you are planning, what you truly feel. And the more she wonders, the more power you hold. Machiavelli wrote extensively about appearances. He argued that it is not necessary to be virtuous, but it is essential to appear virtuous. People believe in images more than truths, and women are no exception. The hack: craft the right mask. Appear as the man of principle, the man who has standards, the man who is disciplined and unshakable. Do not expose your darkest strategies. Instead, let her see the noble outline, while your true intentions remain hidden behind the mask. Why? Because virtue disarms suspicion. A woman who believes you are honest, loyal, and controlled will never expect your mastery of psychology. She will follow willingly, thinking she is safe, when in reality you have already shaped the dynamic. Control does not require force when the illusion of virtue keeps her compliant. Machiavelli knew that rulers must sometimes retreat to maintain power. Too much presence dulls impact. Too much indulgence destroys value. The same applies to relationships. The hack: master the art of withdrawal. After moments of intensity, after passion, after laughter, after closeness, step away. Not for weeks, but for hours, for days. Create contrast. The warmth of your presence must always be followed by the chill of your absence. Withdrawal creates hunger. It forces her to chase, to reach, to seek you out. It transforms you from the man who gives everything into the man she cannot quite catch. And when she reaches back to you, the bond tightens even more. Machiavelli's genius was simple. Absence sharpens presence. Distance strengthens control. Unpredictability, controlled jealousy. Silence, the mask of virtue, and withdrawal. These are the advanced hacks of Machiavellian psychology. Together they form a web where she cannot predict you, cannot own you, and cannot replace you. Each of these tactics pushes her deeper into your orbit. She will question, she will chase, she will burn with the need to keep what she cannot fully hold. And that, according to Machiavelli, is the essence of control. Because power is not about possession, it is about leverage. A man who gives too much is forgotten, but a man who understands scarcity, mystery, unpredictability, and withdrawal becomes unforgettable. We have crossed the halfway point. You now understand the foundation and the advanced strategies. But Machiavelli's mind goes deeper. He believed that power is not secure unless it is sustained by manipulation of loyalty, control of perception, and domination of her inner world. In this segment, we move into those dark psychological depths. Machiavelli often advised rulers to divide factions, weaken unity, and reign by playing sides against each other. Applied to relationships, this hack becomes devastating. The hack: separate her from influences that weaken your hold. If her friends whisper against you, subtly plant seeds that those friends envy her. If her family questions you, frame it as proof that they don't understand her. Do not openly attack her circle. Instead, create doubt. Slowly she begins to trust your voice above all others. Divide her loyalties, and she becomes yours alone. A woman torn between competing truths will cling to the man who feels like stability, even if he is the one creating the storm. Machiavelli knew rulers must balance fear and love. Too much fear breeds rebellion. Too much love breeds weakness. The same duality works in psychology. The hack: alternate between reward and withdrawal, closeness and distance. Give warmth, then take it away. Offer intensity, then turn cold. These emotional swings create dependency. Her brain begins to crave the high of your approval, fearing the low of your silence. This pattern mirrors addiction. The unpredictability of rewards makes the bond stronger than consistent affection ever could. She stops seeking balance and instead begins seeking you as the cure for the very chaos you create. Machiavelli wrote that rulers must shape perceptions, even if it means creating illusions. To control a woman, you must control how she interprets her own emotions. The hack: use projection. Suggest that her insecurities are reflections of her own mind, not your actions. If she accuses you of distance, frame it as her overthinking. If she questions your motives, imply she lacks trust. By projecting flaws onto her, you erode her certainty while protecting your image. This forces her to question herself instead of you. And once she doubts her own judgment, she relies on your version of truth. That is the psychological cage Machiavelli understood so well. Control the narrative, and you control reality. Machiavelli emphasized that rulers must give people the illusion of freedom, while ensuring the outcome always benefits the ruler. This principle applies directly to control in relationships. The hack: allow her to make choices, but always frame them so her decisions lead back to you. Present two options where both benefit your position. For example, give her freedom to choose when to see you, but make both times revolve around your schedule. Let her feel empowered, but guide her power into paths you already control. When she believes she is choosing, she feels invested. When she feels invested, she resists leaving. The cage becomes invisible, yet inescapable. Machiavelli valued loyalty above affection. He knew loyalty binds stronger than love because it grows from obligation. To secure this, you must create emotional debt. The hack: give in calculated doses, gifts, sacrifices, favors, each one later converted into leverage. When she tries to resist, remind her subtly of what you have given. Frame her loyalty as repayment. This does not need to be spoken outright. A glance, a phrase, or a reminder is enough. A woman who feels indebted does not leave easily. She convinces herself that staying is virtue, when in truth, it is submission. Machiavelli saw this clearly. Obligation is a chain disguised as gratitude. Divide and rule. Emotional roller coasters, projection, illusion of choice, and guilt. All are weapons Machiavelli would recognize. They dig deeper than attraction. They reach into the core of loyalty and perception. With them, you are not just a man she desires. You become the axis around which her world spins. Understand this. Love can fade. Attraction can weaken, but psychological entrapment endures. Machiavelli's genius was not about fleeting victories. It was about structures of power that last. Apply these hacks, and you no longer chase control. You become control. We now enter the final descent into Machiavelli's shadow. You have learned attraction. You have mastered manipulation. But power is fragile if not fortified. What is gained through strategy must be preserved through dominance. This final arsenal reveals how to seal the cage, lock the door, and throw away the key. Machiavelli observed that people value what is rare, not what is abundant. When rulers gave too freely, subjects grew entitled. When rulers withheld, subjects grew desperate. The hack: withhold yourself strategically. Do not always give attention, affection, or intimacy on demand. Make your presence scarce. Let her hunger for your time. Scarcity breeds obsession. When she fears losing you, she begins to mold herself into what you want. In her mind, you shift from a man to a prize she cannot afford to lose. Machiavelli believed perception was more powerful than truth. If the people believe a ruler is strong, then he is strong. The hack: become the lens through which she interprets reality. Challenge her memories. Reframe arguments. Twist events until your version becomes the accepted version. If she recalls you ignoring her, remind her you are testing her patience for her own growth. If she accuses you of cruelty, remind her it was discipline, not malice. Do this enough, and her mind bends. She loses trust in her own recollections. She starts to depend on you to tell her what really happened. Once you control her past, you own her present. Machiavelli never denied the power of fear. He said fear endures longer than love. Love rests on gratitude, but fear roots itself in survival. The hack: introduce just enough fear to remind her of consequences. This does not mean open threats. It means psychological cues, a sudden silence, a piercing stare, a withdrawal of affection at the right moment. These microdoses of fear train her to avoid displeasing you. The mind conditioned by fear obeys before it even questions. She will not admit it, but she will feel it, and she will act accordingly. Machiavelli advised rulers to create symbols of authority, crowns, thrones, rituals to remind subjects of who holds power. You must create the same symbols in your relationship. The hack, anchor objects, places, or rituals to your dominance. A gift that always reminds her of you. A phrase she hears only from you. A ritual she associates with your bond. These symbols act as chains that remain even when you are absent. Every time she sees, hears, or performs them, she unconsciously reaffirms your control. Your influence becomes eternal, echoing in her thoughts even when you are not there. Machiavelli understood rulers must elevate themselves beyond ordinary men. A ruler becomes untouchable when he is no longer seen as mortal, but as destiny. The hack become more than her lover, become her creed, her compass, her faith. Speak in absolutes. Present your bond as sacred. Frame your presence as salvation from chaos. If she sees you as ordinary, she may leave. If she sees you as fate, she surrenders. When she ties her identity to you, breaking free feels like breaking herself. At that point, control is no longer effort, it becomes worship. Machiavelli taught that a wise ruler builds a citadel, a fortress inside which his power cannot be broken. You must do the same within her mind. Scarcity makes her chase, redefinition warps her reality, fear conditions her actions, symbols anchor her loyalty, religion seals her devotion. These 5 hacks form your citadel. Inside it, you are not replaceable. Inside it, you are not optional. Inside it, you are the axis of her existence. This is Machiavelli's true brilliance, not fleeting tricks, not shallow games, but an empire of the mind, where control is permanent, invisible, and absolute. This is the Brotherhood. See you in the next one.